Good day everyone, my name is Michi Nunez from Group 3 and I am here to talk all about the table tennis. Table tennis is also known as ping pong. It is a game resembling tennis that is played on a tabletop with a wooden paddles and a small hollow plastic ball. It is a game played inside by 2 or 4 people. The players stand at each end of a table which has a low net across the middle and hit a small light ball over the net using a small bats. Each player is given a consecutive times to start the game. And now let's proceed to the history of table tennis. The game table tennis was invented in England in the early days of 20th century and originally called ping pong, where in 1901, the table tennis was also known as whip-wap, flim-flam, and gossamer, which were the trade name of balls given by the Jacques and Son, Parker brothers who are manufacturers of sporting goods. It was called ping pong because derived from the sound made by the ball when it hits the racket on the table. Arnold Parker, a champion table tennis player, formulated the first law in the table tennis on 1903. Table tennis is governed by the worldwide organization International Table Tennis Federation, which is ITTF, founded in 1926. The table tennis official rules are special in the ITTF book, but the game lost its popularity in 1904 because the cost of the racket and the ball went high. Table tennis became the #1 racket game in China, Japan, and United States. It's also fast becoming a popular sport in the Philippines, and now it is the included one of the events in athletic sports meets. So now let's proceed to the equipment of the table tennis. The first equipment of the table tennis is table. The table in the table tennis is the largest and the most expensive piece. Table looks similar to a small version of a table court, which lines marking the area of play and a net dividing the two courts. The next is net. The net is the another part of the table that stretches across the width of the table and extends 6 inches over each side with posts on either end. The net is made up of stretchy nylon material. So the next is racket or paddle. The racket or paddle is usually made from laminated wood covered with a rubber 1 or 2 sides depending on the player grip. The paddle are used to strike the ball onto the opponent's side of the table. Paddles come different variations that the player's specific skills and techniques. The ping pong ball is a small celluloid, spherical with white or yellow color depending on the table surface and the game styles. So now let's proceed to the fundamental skills and techniques. So first is grip and racket control. Holding the racket determine how you play the game. There are 2 basic grips and recommended. So first is orthodox or shake hand grip. The shake hand grip is the typical European type grip where the head of the racket faces up and your hand looks like ready to shake a person's hands. Players using the shake hand grip use the front and back side of the paddle. The second is the pinhold grip. Pinhold is the Asian style grip of holding the racket where the head of the racket is facing down and is held the way of a person holds a pen or a pencil. Second is the stance and footwork. Proper stance and footwork in serving or receiving are just as important in learning table tennis as they are in the tennis, badminton, or any sport skill that requires a constantly alert player. So beginner stance in serving. Face slightly to the right side and feet well apart of the left foot forward. Be in a position about 1 1/2 to 2 feet, directly behind the center line of your own court. Next is the stance in receiving. So the position is about 2 or 2 1/2 feet directly in the back of the center line of the own court. So the feet are well apart. Knees slightly bent and bodily inclined forward in the ready position. So the next is the serving. The first in serving is the top spin serves. The top spin serve is produced by the starting your stroke below the ball and brushing the racket on the ball in upwards and forwards motion. The next serve is the backspin serves. So the backspin serve is made by the starting your stroke above the ball and brushing the racket against the ball in the downward and the forward motion. These basic strokes are foundations that can be built upon as a player improves. It is possible to correct major technical issues at a later stage, but it's much easier to get them right first time around. So the 4 basic table tennis strokes are: first is push shot, is the basic defensive shot. Second is the forehand and the backhand drive. Third is forehand backhand chop. This is primarily a defensive stroke. Last is the smash shot. On the higher than the net bounce, the higher the better. It is the high straightforward and the downward without a spin on the opponent court. This is an offensive stroke. So now let's proceed to the rules of the game. The objective of the game is to hit the ball with the racket or the paddle held in the hand over the net. So the ball must strike on the service side of the court before striking the top of the table on the opponent's court. The second is the striking the ball before it bounces is not allowed. However, commits a mistake loses a point and your opponent gains a point. A player or pair first scoring 11 points is the winner of the game. Unless both players or pairs score 10 points, the game shall be won the first player or pair subsequently gaining a lead or 2 points. A match is won the 3 out of 5 games. So serving in a table tennis is when the serving player throws the ball from their free hand and then strikes it with their paddle. The serving player must strike the ball so it hits their own side first, clears from the net, and then lands on their opponent's half of the table. A point is awarded to the opponent in the following circumstances. So the first is failure to make a good service unless a let is declared. Second is failure to make a good return of a good service or a good return made by the opponent unless let it declared. Third is if the player, the racket, or anything that the player wears or carries touches the net or its support while the ball is in play. The fourth is if the player's free hand touches the playing surface while the ball is in play. Fifth is if before the ball is played has passed over the end lines or sidelines, not yet having touches the playing surface or on the player's side of the table after being struck by the opponent, it comes in contact with the player or anything the player's wear or carries. Sixth is a player strikes the ball twice in succession. 7 is the server or a partner stamps a foot during the service. A let ball which is then replaced is called the following cases. The first is if the serve ball in passing over the net touches it or it supports, provided that the service would otherwise have been good or valid by the receiver. Number 2, if our service is delivered when the receiver is not ready, provided always the receiver may not be deemed unready if an attempt to strike at the ball is made. The last is if either player is prevented by an accident, not under his or her control from serving a good service or making a good return. So the next is the scoring. A scoring is a point is reached by the player when the opponent hit the ball with a racket over the net and onto the other side of the table, and be at least 2 points ahead or his or her opponent. If both players have won 10 points, then the first player to get 2 points lead wins the game. A match is the best of 5 games. So the next is when in play. The ball is in the play from the moment it is projected from the hand in the service. One of the following has occurred. So first, it has touched one court twice consecutively. Second is it has except in service, touch each court alternative without having been struck by the racket immediately. Third, it's been struck by either player more than once consecutively. Fourth, it has touched either player or anything that the player wears or carries except the racket or the racket hand below the waist. Fifth, on the volley, it comes into contact with the racket or the racket hand below the waist. The sixth is it has touched any object other than the net and supports. The next is the order of serving, receiving, and ends. So the first is the right to choose the initial order of serving, receiving, and ends shall be dedicated by lot and time reader may choose to serve or to receive first or to start a particular end. Second is when one player or pair has chosen to serve or first or to start at a particular end. The other player or pair shall have the other choice. The third is After every 2 points has been scored, the receiving player or pair shall have become the serving player or pair, and so on until the end of the game, unless both players' system is in the operation, when the sequences of serving or receiving shall be the same, but each player shall serve for only 1 point in turn. So the fourth is, in each game of a doubles match, the pair having the right to serve the first shall choose which of them will do, and in the first game of a match, the receiving pair shall decide which of them will serve first. First server has been chosen. The first receiver shall be the player who served to them in the preceding game. The fifth is in doubles, at each change of service, the previous receiver shall become the server, and the partner of the previous server shall become the receiver. The sixth is the player or pair serving first in the game shall receive first in the next game of the match, and the pair due to receive next shall change in their order. The first pair scores 5 points. The last is the player or pair starting at one end of the game shall start at the other end of the next game of the match. In the last possible game of a match, the player or pair shall change ends when the pair scores 5 points. And that would be all about the table tennis. Thank you for listening. Again, this is Menchi Nunez from Group 3.